We were talking earlier with, who was our guest? What's his name? Carl Higbie. Thank you, Shano. With Carl Higbie about, whether or not you should be able to sue a publication if they, if you're the little guy like Donald Trump, if you're just your average billionaire running for president of the United States and you don't like what was written about you in the newspaper, should the government subsidize your lawsuit against the New York Times? I'm not sure that turned out all that well from the Republican point of view in terms of the debate. But what's really interesting is that there are Republicans right now who are trying to do a variation on this very thing as we speak. In Illinois, there is a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. His name is Bob Dole, not Bob Dole. Bob Dole was an honorable man. He was a Republican. He's in his 90s. I think he might have recently died. Maybe he's still around. Ran for president once. But in any case, this is Bob Dole, D-O-L-D. He's the Republican from Illinois. In Colorado, there's a Republican by the name of Mike Kaufman. He's a member of the U.S. House of Representatives. In Florida, there's a Republican by the name of David Jolly. In New York State, there's a fellow by the name of John Katko, K-A-T-K-O. And in Pennsylvania, there's a fellow by the name of Brian Fitzpatrick who's running for a seat that is currently occupied by his brother, but it's an open seat. His brother is retiring or, I don't know what happened to his brother. But in any case, these 5 Republicans, and no doubt there are others, but this is from the Huffington Post today. These 5 Republicans are threatening to sue television stations because the Democratic Party is running ads pointing out that they're Republicans, right? I mean, this is like, and that at the top of the ticket is Donald Trump. And they're like, no, wait a minute. I don't support Donald Trump. I'm not, don't tar me with that brush. No, please. Sorry, guys. You're Republicans. Bob Dole, Mike Kaufman, David Jolly, John Katko, Brian Fitzpatrick, you're Republicans. You're the guy running for president on your ticket who was selected by 14 million Republicans, the largest number of Republicans ever to vote in a primary election for a presidential candidate in the history of the United States. Just voted for Donald Trump, made him the nominee. And now you've got this bizarre situation. You got like Darrell Issa. I mean, one of the most toxic Republicans in the House of Representatives. The guy, he's also one of the wealthiest members of the House, right? If not the wealthiest member of the House of Representatives. He's not quite a billionaire, but he's getting there. And Darrell Issa is apparently, from the news stories I'm reading, I haven't seen the ads myself, but is apparently running ads that include pictures of President Obama. As if, like, hey, I'm Darrell Issa, I can reach across the aisle and work with the Democrats. Yeah, Darrell Issa, Mr. Obstruction. Darrell Issa, the guy who broke down sobbing when he discovered that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be the next governor of California because he thought it was going to be his job. Little did he know that Ken Lay and Enron had actually conspired with Arnold Schwarzenegger to make him governor and then shut down, do the rolling blackouts across the state to get rid of Gray Davis. And I mean, the perfidy, the dirty tricks, the stuff that the Republican Party does just to get power and wealth is mind-boggling. And so now you've got the president of the United States, President Obama, going out and on the campaign trail and having to make jokes about Darrell Issa because Darrell Issa is trying to pretend like, oh, I'm not one of those crazy guys. I'm President Issa is just fine with me. No, come on. We know the game here. We know what's going on. The Republican Party is a scam. It's a shill. The Republican Party is a nonprofit corporate front group, a shill group for the 1%. And the corporations that create the 1%. Has been since the days of Harry Truman. In fact, has been since Reconstruction. But in particular, has been since the days of FDR and Harry Truman. And you know, I was going to say, and always will be, but it raises a really interesting question, and maybe you have some thoughts on this. And that is, the Republican Party up until this point has at its core this commitment to the 1%, to the economic interests of the billionaire class and the multimillionaire class, and big transnational corporations. So they support things like corporate personhood and the idea that money is actually speech and you can give unlimited amounts of money to politicians, and that, you know, climate change is just a hoax because you know, some petro billionaires will give them enough money that they can run their campaigns and things. So basically, I mean, you know, and the list goes on and on. You know, they have fought, as Michael Moore points out in his brilliant movie, Trumpland. This movie, it's the only place you can see it is on iTunes, Apple's, you know, video platform. And it actually took me a minute to track it down last night. I had to go into iTunes, and then I had to plug into the search engine, and then I had to figure out that it was under movies, and you know, it was not the easiest thing, but I persisted, and I got it. And Louise and I, you know, laid in bed last night and watched this movie and laughed and cried, and we're just so, I mean, Michael Moore is an absolute flaming genius. And and there was so much low-hanging fruit that he didn't grab hold of in that movie. He never once pointed out all the awful stuff that the Republicans have done. Instead, he basically, the movie's about Hillary, even though it's called Trumpland. And it's about who we are as Americans. Do we really want to be the country that killed 1 million of our citizens because it was so important to shut down Hillary Clinton's health care initiative in 1993? Do we really want to be that country? Do we really want to be the country that does away with Social Security, that slashes Medicare? Do we really want to be the country that makes life harder and harder and harder on poor people? Do we really anymore believe this nonsense that the Republicans started peddling, you know, the whole Ayn Rand thing back in the 1930s and 40s with the Chicago School, that poor people are poor because they're bad people or they have lousy value systems? Do we really want to be that country? Or are we the country that can send a man to the moon? Are we the country that can cure polio? Are we the country that can you know, help the world be a better place? Are we the country that can end carbon pollution? By the way, an amazing story. This is from today's Guardian. About 500,000 solar panels were installed every day last year as a record-shattering surge in green electricity saw renewables overtake coal as the world's largest source of installed power capacity.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Renewables overtook coal last year. More solar panels and windmills than coal-fired power plants. It's amazing.